Namaste, Sitaram. Welcome to another edition of the Hindu Perspective here on IETV. It's a production of the Board of Swaha and coming to you from sunny Trinidad and Tobago. On this program, we are interested in having discussions and ventilating issues connected with Hinduism. At the beginning of June, we started a conversation regarding the growth of and development of Hinduism in Trinidad and Tobago, and we spoke firstly of the role of the Pandits. Last week in our last show, we had some inputs in terms of the practice of Hinduism in Kenya from Dr. Vaishali Shah. Today, we continue our conversations, but before we actually begin, again, we have our regular senior Pandits. I want to invite firstly Pandit Balramji to lead us in an opening prayer, and then we will begin today's conversation. Panditji.
Let us join in prayer. Om Yang Brahm Vedanta Virovaranti Parang Pradhanam Purushanta Thane Vishwodgate Karam Ishwarang Vatasmai Namo Vigna Vinashanaya Om Ganganapatiye Namah Om Sri Vigneshwaraya Namah Bole Shri Gajanan Swami Ki Jai Swaha Mata Ki Jai.
Today, we continue our conversation and our discussion on the Hindu perspective regarding institutions. Now, some time back, I remember a paper that was done by the Paramachar of Swaha, Pandit Haridev Prasad, where he described the Pandits as the blood, the lifeblood of the society, moving, coursing through the veins, going from place to place. And he had given the analogy that our mandirs, our temples, our Shivalaya, whichever term we wish to use, they are like the actual heart that actually pumps the blood throughout the body. So in terms of the Hindu body, the Hindu society, Hindu Samaj in Trinidad and Tobago, what are the institutions that helped us grow over the years from 1845 to now? How have they served us? How are changes to be implemented? What changes, if any, are needed as our society changes? These are all issues that we would want to ventilate and to discuss today. As we begin, I will firstly introduce our guest from Trinidad and Tobago, Pandit Vickramaditya Maharaj. He is a spiritual leader of the Vishwanath Mandir of Rushworth Street, San Fernando. He's the head of the Upkar Foundation, which is an NGO involved in social work, assisting displaced people, and also involved in quite a bit of printing of literature. He is the author of the Doha Gita, Mardini Stotra. He has compiled Damodar Stotra, and is currently working on the Ramayana and Gita Mahatam, translating and putting in a manner in which the average person could follow. He has also published in 1984 a children's Ramayana. Now, he's a practicing Pandit of over 50 years, one of the senior Pandits remaining in Trinidad and Tobago. So he would have seen the change of Hinduism. He'd have been part of the change in Hinduism or part of Hinduism that didn't change. It's a matter of perspective as time goes along. He has a focus on Sanskrit. And in fact, he has done, IETV carried the Sanskrit Ramayana that he had done, which was well received. And he's a proud father of 2 children, a doctor and a lawyer. To Pandit Vickramaditya Maharajji, welcome, Sitaram.
Thank you for having me.
Great, sure. We want to discuss, and the whole point of our meeting like this, and meeting with different elements of our society, is to assist in moving the Hindu body forward, the Hindu society forward in Trinidad and Tobago and elsewhere. So on this topic of Hindu institutions, we have spoken of the Pandits firstly. Now we open the floor for conversation on institutions in Hinduism that have helped us grow or those that have impeded our progress. We need to be very objective. I want to start by asking our senior Pandit, Pandit Gyandevji, then Pandit Balaramji, to make their opening comments and suggestions and we begin our conversation. Thank
you, Panaji. In the beginning, first of all, as I normally do, I like to refer to the Gita to give grounding on what we are about to speak about. Now, in my opinion, while there are many institutions, one has been mentioned by Krishna Bhagavan, that actually in the Gita, which Krishna Bhagavan gives his Vedic on, when Arjuna is speaking to him, he says what? In chapter 1, age long family tradition disappears with the destruction of the family, and virtue having been lost, vice takes hold of the entire race. That is when women in society become corrupt. So in my opinion, one of the most important institutions for maintaining Hinduism is the marriage system. And marriage system right now, we know there are a lot of topics, there are a lot of various ideas. And we, in my opinion, we can't pander and cater to people's opinions and ideas and disregarding Krishna Bhagavan's dictates. So marriage must be between a man and a woman, no two ways about that. Marriage must be an institution of religiousness, and it is the center of society. It is the foundation for society to grow and develop. For Hinduism to continue on its way, we have all institutions, temples, we have children's home, we have whatever we want to have. But if the marriage system is not in place and accurately handled, then we have problems. I have to tell our Hindu brothers and sisters how to get married, who to get married to, or what must be engaged in a wedding. And that's a big topic by itself, because the Hindu wedding seems to be more of a bacchanal system. We have people going, opening the trunk, I know going on. And I can remember once going to Felicity, it was her day, the Friday night. When I reached there, Philip comes and says, Baba, you want a drink? Now that's disrespectful to the highest. I call it post, I say, I'm going to leave here now. I am coming here to do a Hardi Sanskar. I'm going to invoke my devatas on the Beri, and you have these people drinking rum all over. Get rid of all of them. There's no Hardi going on. I'm leaving right now. A Hardi is a secret, it's a puja. It is a puja. Hindus don't seem to understand that a Hardi is a puja. Our wedding is a puja. Dulahin is like Vishnu Bhagavan Lakshmi Mata. You know, my father once said in a wedding, when I tell people to turn around, if you fall down, you had drink in your head. So if you have young people, make a puppy show. Make a puppy show. So we as Pandits, Swaha and other institutions, we have to first of all insist that the institution of wedding and Hindus and getting married must be sacred, just like a puja. When you have a puja, how you prepare for it, a wedding is the same thing. So my opening comment I take from Krishna Bhagavan, that if women get corrupted, how women get corrupted? By vice and so on. We all know how it goes on, but it happens various times. So we have to keep that institution intact. And then all those things will follow. When you're married and you have children, you can stand in the temple. If you have no proper marriage, who going to temple? Temple, as that great bhajan says, the temple will be what? Empty. And will be full? The rum shop. You know that bhajan, that bhajan. I can't remember right now. Shri Ram kahe Sri Jaya se. Sahi baat. And what happened? And all the important things in that about how this age will go. So we have to make sure our institutions are maintained, and the foundation of society, we always say, is the family. And Pastor Balaram will continue.
I support the points you made, but I prefer to give Pandit Vikram the spotlight.
Okay.
Pandit.
Yeah, first of all, if we need to go forward, taking 3 steps forward is not necessarily going forward. We need to go backwards first. I support your position on the marriage. But when we take 2 children and marry them, I'm using the word children, let me be very, very cautious. Marriageable age, legal marriageable age. Why do they have to break away from the home structure to start with? They don't want to live with parents. They want to live on their own. So they are putting themselves at a disadvantage, not having the family support with them. Now, like I say, we need to go backward first. I was very fortunate in that I had 4 grandparents alive when I was born. Very fortunate. My mother, when she got married, she lived in the home with her in-laws. All the brothers lived with their parents when they got married. So we had that foundation. That is something we look forward to every week. when we moved out, to go back to this home, to go back to this home. But if the couple starting off without that, where these children going? They're trying to figure out life on their own in a changing world that is very violent. Children are exposed to things that we could never imagine when we were growing up. So one of the ways is, yes, marriage, yes. But I am supporting that children, when they get married, for a period of time, should at least live with the in-laws, so they will get a better understanding of what are the customs, what are the traditions of this family that they are married into.
Well, Vikram, I just want to intervene here, if you don't mind. I want to clarify an issue that's public. Some persons in state organizations said there's no need for children's home because we believe in taking care of our children. But they do not seem to understand that children's home deal with children who have no parents, orphans, people who have discarded. This is the reality. So the extended family is necessary. We must have an institution of children's home to take care of those children who have nobody to take care of them. There are big capital of children's home in society. And we have to condemn that statement that there is no need for children's home because in extended family. There
is a need. And there is a need because up to recently, for this year alone, as far as my memory could, I thought I could remember, many husbands has killed their wife and commit suicide and leave 2-3 children behind. Who is going to take care of them? We must have a structure in place where these children must not be left behind. And extended family will only do that because of the camera. Once the camera switch off, they abandon these children. So we need to have structures with the right people to take these children and reprogram them, remold them, so they could be beneficial to society in 15, 20 years' time, and do not let them fall astray, fall on the wayside. I'll give you a good example. There was a family in Williamsville that got wiped out. The Budram or Baburam family, Babulal family. One child survived that, one child. Today that child is in prison, awaiting a trial over 20-something years now. The only survivor of that incident, where a whole family was wiped out. Now we want to sit down and talk and see what we should have do, what we could have do, what we would have do. We have to be smart enough to know that there are children who are going to be abandoned by parents for no fault of theirs. We must have structures in place where these children could be brought up to par.
Let me just bring in Maharaj. You can take it from there that children's home are necessary. We have one. So are the children's home. Children's home are necessary in society because without them, as you said, those who are left behind, when their parents died, whatever happened to them, somebody must take care of them, somebody responsible. I'll pass on to Maharaj, who will direct the conversation, and bring in Balaram, and then back to you.
Thank you very much, Pandit Gyandev. I think 2 major issues have arisen here from both Pandit Gyandev and Pandit Vikram. One, Pandit Gyandev speaks of the institution of marriage. I think we can spend a little more time on that. Pandit Vikram's point about take 2 steps back, having children live in the home with in-laws. The extended family structure, to a great extent, has lost its weight in Trinidad and Tobago. Whether we can in fact go back is open to debate. But assuming that we have the situation as it is, what can we do? The first question, I think, is to ensure that 2 young people who are getting married under Hindu rites understand clearly what their roles and responsibilities are, and even what the marriage ceremony entails. The other very critical point that Pandit Gyandev just raised, I was honestly shocked to see a Hindu leader suggesting that the Hindu community does not need children's homes or they don't need old age homes. I think that perspective is certainly one we don't share. Swaha has established the Shok Bhavan, a children's home in which we look after not children who have family, as Pandit Vikram mentions, but children who need help. And then, I don't know if you recognize it. I myself, if I may share this, as you get older, you realize that you may not always have what it takes to look after elderly people. And medical facilities may be required. And so even home for the aged, for those who cannot look after themselves, or even families who cannot look after elderly people again, these are needs of the society. So that we want to signal very clearly that our view is that such institutions, social institutions, are needed in the Hindu community. More are needed. Pandit Vikram himself has been doing quite a bit of social work, assisting, and maybe he can expand on that, some of the things he has seen and he has done. But for these two, I think these are two institutional issues that we raised, the institution of marriage and the need for specialized institutions to look after vulnerable children and elderly people who need assistance. I wish to pass to Pandit Balramji for his inputs at this point in the institutions that we need to look at for the development of Hinduism going forward on our society. Panditji.
Thank you, Pandit Mahadev. There is no doubt, because of the situation of our country and elsewhere, there is a dire need for such institutions. And I'm happy to know that you all are aware that SWAHA is promoting that, and we do not support the comments by others who think otherwise. We have to move on with the job at hand. Our children are too precious, we know that, and so too are the elderly. And any society that wants to progress, you cannot leave the children behind, nor can you leave the elderly behind. You must look after them. So we are off to a very, very positive start, and I must commend these two pundits for the input, including you, Pandit Mahadev. So carry on.
So, Pandit Yadev, Pandit Vikram, the point I'm raising with regard to marriage, I understand what you're saying on the Vikram, but we have no control over two young people deciding they must get married and move out on their own. This sense of independence is something that is developing further. What more can we do to ensure our Hindu marriage, institution of marriage in Hinduism is strengthened?
Well, you will need to have guidance from the elders, from the senior, I'm using the word senior pundits, right? But I think more the elders, they would have to have an input, because we're seeing it every day. Marriage are crumbling like biscuit. There are more divorce in court than anything else. And when you analyze why this has happened, there's no real reason for it. People just get fed up with each other and they go to separate ways. That's the reason they give. I mean, all of us went through that. All of us went through marriage. We went through the good up and down days, the down days, the happy days, the sad days, everything. But you know, in the end, who benefits? When you bring a child in this world, that child must not be at a disadvantage. That child must have the support, if it is available, of the extended family. Independence, yes, I agree, you must be independent. But are you willing to sacrifice the future of a child for independence? That only when the grandparents die, then the child knows he has a grandparent? You may not live in the same house, but they must maintain that contact. That relationship must be there. That is all we ask.
I think I was giving it thought as you were talking. Where do Hindus meet? Where do Hindus as a grouping get together? And immediately what comes to my mind is our temple institutions, our mandirs. So another issue with marriage, I remember Pandit Haridev had mentioned this point once to me, and he has said it publicly actually, that we need to have some sort of, now counseling might be a bad word, right? But some sort of training program, if counseling is not the word we want, some sort of basic course where if two people are going to be married as Hindus, they should have this sort of background training or conversation. I know other religious denominations do it, but as Hindus, we don't have a formal process where this is done. We just assume, okay, so two people come and say, Baba, we want to get married, we set the date and we marry them and it's done. But can we look at this idea of creating a more formalized a short course, a short mechanism where what we believe is needed to be transmitted to a new family can be transmitted.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because if we take a juxtaposition of life and put business aside here. For instance, I give an example. When I was working in the bank, when I went the first day, they put me under somebody to train. They just tell you, go and do what you have to do. You don't put on yourself. You have a training system. So we'll continue after this with this topic after we take a break. So at this point in time, you must take a break. We'll come back, we'll continue the discussion. Join us as we explore contemporary issues facing societies worldwide. Interviews and discussions featuring local and international experts. You can participate in our live call-in segments, a program of the board of SWAHA.
Join live every Tuesday evening at 4:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. and prime time at 7 p.m. Now, one of the most, I will say, idiotic statements I've ever heard, repeated over and over, is that you make a child but you don't make his mind. That is foolishness. How do you make a child's mind? It's how you live. So when you get married, this is what we call it training ground for being a parent. And many people complain, there's no school to be a parent. But my school, our school, is seeing how my parents lived. So when I and my wife live in a home with my parents, they see that is training ground. So they're making me, when my child see how I live with my parents, he will live with me the same way. It's a continuous basis. I come back to the very simple thing of business. Nobody will take anybody. If when I went to the bank to be a teller, I just can't go in front people and start doing that work. They put me a senior teller next to me and they guide me. And every area in business, in every area in life, you need guidance. And in life, you need the guidance from your parents who are there a long time. So this is something we have to bear in mind. And going back to the wedding. In every wedding, you know how the wedding takes place? The poor take a part, the brother take a part, the Aji, everybody have part to play in the wedding. Why? Because they had to play a part in your wedding afterwards. So in the wedding, all the family, in the Matikor, in the wedding sanskar, every single thing, you have family participation. It's an inculcation to the thought that I have all these family around me, my uncle, my aunt, everybody. So when I married, I had to live with them. Your mother, your father, does all the kanyadan and so on. So they are around you. So in the wedding itself, it gives you indication that the family is important. So during the wedding, they're important. After the wedding, they're not important. So let us get away with the Western influence. That when you're married, you're your own boss. You're always a child. As when Vikram started, we are all children. Nobody's not a child. Everybody's a child. No matter how old you get, you are still a child. In front of parents, you are children. So you have to use that training system, incorporate it. It's not something far-fetched, as we do all the time. And you have to understand the extended marriage, the extended family is what we need for the training ground. And let us avoid the Western influence.
Thank you very much, Panditji. The issue of institutions, well, we have identified marriage as an institution in Hinduism and undergoing change. There's something we didn't discuss earlier, maybe not so much in Trinidad, but when we first came, there was also the system of arranged marriages, which we've not really dealt with. Now there are a lot of love marriages, basically. And in addition to that, the idea of where marriages are now a situation where it's just the boy and the girl. Although in every wedding, they say it's a union of families. So I think in order for us to move on and look at other topics, let's leave the institution of marriage here now. We can probably look at more detailed things in further programs and look at other institutions in Hinduism, other institutions that we have that help us grow and develop. Ramji.
There are many institutions that have helped us. I'll just outline a few of them. You mentioned the temple. You mentioned marriage. We have what I would like to call the elderly people with their experience and the knowledge. We have also look at the way Hinduism is propagated in Trinidad. Institutions like the Narwaninonia, the Mahapatra, you have the Mahapatra at the Saint Trinidad. You have the classical singers and the groups long ago, the Bhuja Saj. You have the ladies group, with the Holy Munpura, etc. They have played a tremendous role in keeping the people together and promoting Sanatana Dharma. We also have the dance groups long ago. Remember, I used to call them Alan K. Mai, Alan K. Pai, right? S1E11 dance now.
Yeah.
That was also a part of it, right? The parts of the Ramayana enacted, dramatized, also promoting the culture. We have the Tasta groups also helped in promoting the culture, which is Hindu culture. And so there's so many, but I think I've just outlined a few only, whether you want to pick them up or you want to go on, but there's a lot. And despite all of this, we have people who have written books, like Vickramaditya, you yourself wrote one on Lord Ganesh and whatever else. So we have our pundits who are writing books to preserve in the language that people understand. We have the TV programs, like what IETV has on other TV stations. We have radio programs. We have discussions on Hinduism. So if all of this is taking place, the big question is what's going wrong, if anything is going wrong. We have RI in schools, some schools. We have Hindu schools. We have Hindu courses. We have international media also. So why all of this is taking place still? Is it that it's not effective? Or is it not effective enough? I don't know. I'm simply suggesting there's so many things that need to be done that different groups or different people can just take one or two of these and work on them. Take, for example, Hare Krishna people. I'm not no supporter of anybody. Eh? They focus on the Gita. So you know where they're coming from. Lord Krishna and his teachings, all right? So that's one example. So I think the vast nature of Hinduism obviously needs a large number of people to focus on different aspects. So what do we do? The question is to be answered by anybody.
Vikram, your input?
You have planners and you have implementers. You have people who could see a situation, but they may not be able to manage it. They could see the problem, they could see how to fix it, but they cannot manage it. So we have to look at it from a holistic point of view. More and more people have to get involved in their specialty. Everybody has a special field. Every single person has a special field. We're talking about the institutions. The institution I want to really hammer is really the mandir, the temple, Shivala. That is the one I am aiming at. Because I see the role this could play in not only preserving Hinduism, but creating a powerful Hindu leader. The mandirs could do it. But when we look at the school system that we have, every day we are seeing bullying in school. We are seeing violence in school. Children are exposed to pornography. Children are exposed to drugs. Some children don't want to be part of it, and they don't know where to turn to. So this is why I am saying we have to recreate the mandir, bringing things that we never thought we wanted in a mandir. I am in very strong support of having a mandir that has a big yard, to have a table tennis court, to have a badminton court. Children should be able to play games like Scrabble and drafts, remedial classes. When you bring them in the mandir, you see, we are reprogramming them. First thing, have a shower. Go in the mandir, light a diya. Come, let us talk about your problem. So gradually, they would learn how to worship without anybody telling them. There will be functions in the mandir where they themselves one day will become the cooks in the mandir. So the mandir provides that for them. The mandir will provide for them the ability to manage and to lead. But we have to put the structure in place and don't keep the mandir stifled with puja and rituals. Puja important, rituals important, but we need to have our children there where they can become the leaders. To sit down on an asana and say, the children are the leaders of tomorrow, but they have no training to become leaders. Where do they get that training? And all of us have chelas who are very bright, brilliant people, who are willing to submit a few hours of their time to assist these children with their remedial classes, with their homework, how to deal with peer pressure, how to deal with, come on, every street in this country have a rum shop. Children pass in rum shop every day to go to school. Sooner or later, because of peer pressure, they will go in. And we know when they go in, they're coming out. So we have to prepare them. We have to find the right people who could manage these things and refocus the vision of the mandir for the next 20, 25, 50 years. Banaji?
Baramji, the role of the mandir.
Yeah. The thing is, let me give you a little example, Pandits. In speaking with the young people, you hear when they're passing, that's my school, that's my school. When they pass in the temple, and never hear say, that's my temple, that's my temple. So something is lacking. Definitely what you just pinpointed.
Sense of belonging.
Right? Something is lacking that we have to all put our heads together and work. Now, we know how parents are. Take the SCA scenario. SCA is coming around maybe a few months. So what are parents' primary focus? My child has to pass for X school. So lessons come first. Monday not important there. Lessons come first. If you decide to give lessons, you're going to compete with school, it won't work. The school has a greater sense of belonging to the school than the mandir. So we have to see what, that's my suggestion, right? My opinion. So we see where we have to know, as you quite rightly said, what do we do in relation to the children and the mandir to make it their priority, right? In a school, let them behave in a certain way. You mentioned about bullying and so on. That's in certain schools, not the real top Hindu schools, if I may use that term, or even denominational schools, right? That's my view again. So I'm saying we really have, as Hindu leaders, it's not going to be easy. And to get even the volunteers from the Hindu community, many times we ask those who are retired, okay, use your skills. You're an English teacher, go and teach remedial English. You can't get them to come out. You're a math teacher, go and help teach remedial maths. You're not getting that either. You're a sportsman, go and help train the boys in cricket or the girls in volleyball or netball. You're not getting that. So it's a certain attitude that we have to fight. And I don't know who's going to fight that. I'm not saying it shouldn't be me or you, but it has to be an approach by all mandirs. And all mandirs too do not see the way we are seeing it now in a pandit. They don't see that way. They don't see the temple being an all-inclusive developmental institution for the welfare of the children. They don't see that way. So we have to get back to the drawing board.
No, I think what the point being raised here with Pandit Balaram and Pandit Vikramji, we have agreement that the Hindu centers, the temples, or as Swaha has called them, Hindu centers, must in fact be focused on the holistic development of those who attend it. The challenge is one of implementation, as is rightly being pointed out. Now, in no system, in my view, would you get 100% compliance. So what we need to do is speak to and address those who see value in what is being suggested, so that we work with temple. Now, again, in the Hindu community, is my view that everybody operates in silos. I know what I do what I do, and I really don't care what the next man doing. I'm not seeing what the other person is doing. And we have to try and create a greater sense of collaboration on areas of commonality, so that while we identify that the changing role of the temple is needed, to achieve that, we require a very different type of temple management. And do we have the people with the skills who are willing to do that? We have to cultivate that, in my view. But again,
as you speak, there's certain things in my mind what have been spoken about by the Vikram and Balaram. A few things, as you might have mentioned, we are all individuals. In my opinion, we have to go to this direction. I can be wrong. But wedding should take place in a temple. I, a Pandit, do not want to do any wedding anybody home. You want to do Hardi, Sanskar, Friday, I'll do it for you. But your wedding itself, to have it really, in order and not going haywire. Do not temple. And temple is more controlled. So what we do...
But again, if I may interrupt. Remember the problem now with Pandits, if I don't want to do it, there's always one who's willing to do it. So we drop in action on our own foot. If he doesn't want to come and do the wedding for me at my home, I will get a Pandit who will come to my home and do it. So what do we do?
No, in the beginning, it will be a challenge. But if, for instance, I have a child, I tell you, I'm your guru, you listen to me, conveniently or all the time. If I tell you I want to do a wedding in a temple, all the systems are there. It's better. It will be a challenge in the beginning. But what we do is heading a direction, we'll have more control. Now, maybe this is the reason why Hinduism is scattered, because there is benefit in also in people's home. But in going to a temple and centralizing all activities in a temple is one of the greatest things we can do. Now,
but if I may, forgive me.
Sure.
So I go to a temple and they don't have the facilities. For example, parking, feeding. So why would I go there? So we have to bring all the temple up to par two.
I think, listen, while on the Hindu perspective, we're open to perspective. Everybody has their perspective, and we listen to the perspectives, right? But we also must not take away choice from people. And for me to say, I mean, I can't, with due respect, Vanayanda, say that I must say you must do your wedding in the temple. The next thing people will say, I'm trying to get business from a temple. Yeah. What I could insist on is that if I'm doing the wedding for you in the temple or in your home, it must be done in accordance with the traditions that we decide are acceptable. Now, we have made those changes. Swaha has made those changes in many ways. I don't know if many of you are Vikram is aware of it, others. Usually when you go to a hardi, even when you go to a wedding, this is something even in homes you should look at. The ceremony is going on and people eating, people drinking. Now, I know for hardis that has been changed, that no food is served until the hardi is over. So I think what we need to do, let's bring in my perspective in, is we cannot seem as to want to take away choice from people. As Pandit Balaram says, it's very simple. What you're doing is basically, if you use a modern terminology, if you want to take hard and fast positions, you are going to be basically taking yourself out of the market. Because, okay, you don't want to do the wedding for me at home, okay, I'll go and get Pandit. Why? What happens? What we have to do, in my view, is try and encourage change in all the areas that we want by winning over hearts and minds, by having people understand the logic in what we're doing. And surely there are people who will never see the logic. And my perspective, frankly, is people, that Panaganda was saying, if you cannot see the logic of what we are saying and how we would want to operate, then I am not the Pandit for you. We are not the organization for you. We can't be mother to everybody. No one organization or no one Pandit is. But we have to find the areas of commonality. So reforming weddings is something that's coming up. The use of alcohol in Hindu weddings. The other issue we raised was, can we get some sort of pre-marital, pre-wedding training or counseling done from a Hindu perspective to assist new grooms and brides? That's something we can look at. The other major thing we've come up with so far is the changing role of the mandir. And I would like us to focus on that a bit more when we come back. We need to take a break now.
Join us as we explore contemporary issues facing societies worldwide. Interviews and discussions featuring local and international experts. You can participate in our live call-in segments, a program of the board of SWAHA.
Join live every Tuesday evening at 4:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. and prime time at 7 p.m.
Yeah, I want to pick up on the point you made, Parimayu. I want to pick up
on the perspective. We are having a very lively conversation on changes that are needed. Weddings is one of the areas, one of the institutions that has come up pointedly in this conversation. One, the idea of how many weddings are done, and many times pundits themselves, I think this is an issue we have not raised, pundits themselves are victim of circumstances. If I don't do what the judgeman wants, then the judgeman will call somebody else. Isn't that so? And that can become an issue. I want to just turn back to Pandit Balaram as he continues I interrupted him as we restarted. Panditji.
No, the point you made a while ago, we are striving to get some kind of unanimity, togetherness in the Hindu community, however it might be. One good way to start with the temples. But I have always said when Pandits unite, Hindus will unite. But that's a whole topic by itself. Let's go back to the Hindus. We have to look at what areas which we common to all, and I suggest sports, right? Like a national Hindu sports day, but again, you have to get buy-in. If you don't get that, it falls flat. Singing, culture. You have, these classical singers or film songs and so on. The young ones or whoever will gravitate towards that. We should also have competitions along cultural lines. The best, dance also, singing. So those are some areas we could look at to start. We must always look at what will bring us together, and culture will always bring us together, in my opinion. And I'm saying sports, culture.
Vikramji.
Interesting. In the Ramayana, we read about Ram and the monkeys building a bridge to go to Lanka. Panditji, you have any idea? Is one stone they took to build the bridge? All it took was one stone. And everybody fell in place after that. One stone. The problem we are facing, if one mandir picks it up, the rest will fall in line when they see the need for it. Everybody not going to agree. But we have to start somewhere. And we have to start with one stone. There's a beautiful quotation I always like to use, that the brave may not live forever, but the cautious do not live at all. We have to be brave. All of us know what the problems are. All of us know the problems. We don't have the answers, but we know the problems. So let us find it one by one. We'll find them one by one. It will take a long time, but we'll find them one by one. And once that one program starts, a series of programs going to fall in place after that we ourselves will not be able to manage. It will become bigger than us, that we will end up having to take a back seat and let this flow on its own merit. But we are in a position, sorry. Go ahead.
Suggest a program. We want suggestions to bring people together, together.
The way to do it is we have to reach out to them. We cannot say that I got a maths teacher and I get a good pension now. Come on, you're not the only maths teacher in the country. You are not the only English teacher in the country. They have many, look at many. One will see the need for it. And that is the one that we hold on to.
I think what is coming out here is a need. We believe, from what I'm getting, the consensus seems to be that we need to strengthen the capacity of our temple institutions. Now, it depends on how our temple institutions are run also. Now, I mean, I am Okora, I'm familiar with SWAHA's institutions and SWAHA's structures. But different temples have different structures and different ways in which they operate. And I think it will require us to, again, you see, if listening to what we are saying here, cultural programs, everybody is doing cultural programs, every separate organization. Sports, Mahasabha have their sports, Swaha have their sports, Kendra have their sports. But again, it's all individualized in that regard. But maybe at the level of the temples, really, I think we need to really look at how we can get, if I understand it clearly, we need to have a greater collaboration across people. Am I reading it right, that that's what we're looking to get?
Basically, when a child comes to the mandir, Pandit, I don't know how much you know this, but in our mandir in San Fernando, where we do the Ganesh Yagya, right? You were there 1 or 2 nights and you see the kind of work we have going on there. You know who in charge of that? A bunch of teenagers. They run the show from start to finish. Nobody else has an input. I always tell people, you have an opinion, keep it to yourself. They are in charge. If they make mistakes, we will correct it after, not during. When we plan the next one, we'll see the shortcomings. So we have to give them this. But a child cannot come to the mandir and be afraid. You know, you go to the mandir and you see certain people and you're scared of them. No. We have to be able to open up to children. Have people who are good listeners. They may have no advice to give. They're just very good listeners. Sometimes that is all a child needs. Just somebody to listen to them. And you give them a very little responsibility. Very little, you know. They can't make coffee. But you know what? Could you carry this cup of coffee for Pandit Man you gave for me? That responsibility. I become the medium between the kitchen and the Pandit. You know how good that child feels? And when the child reaches by you, Pandit, you say, hey boy, put it on there. You break him already. What is it going to take for you to pat him on his head and say, thank you, son, well done? That's all he needed. We cannot push them away. We are facing too much a negative in society. Too much. And we have to bring them in. If we have to, I don't want to use the word force, that is not a way. They must be free to want to come on their own. But we must have incentives to bring them there.
Speaking of incentives, you know, as you were talking, Pandit Vikram, this came up last week in last week's show also, that Hinduism is rich in festivals, rich in events. And you mentioned the Ganesh festival, through which you have gotten people involved. Maybe we need to use our festivals more also and again, not have a certain core of people managing everything, but using the festivals to reach out, to get others involved. In terms of institution building, in terms of the growth of Hinduism, the role our festivals have placed. We've not really spoken on that. I don't know if anybody wants to make any inputs on that, the festivals themselves.
During the Pitri Paksha, which is after the Ganesh Yagya, most of the people who involve in the Ganesh Yagya have Pitri Puja. Most of them. Many years ago, Pitri Puja was just between the Pandit and the people living in the house. Now, it's becoming so big that all the children who involve in the Yagya, they also come and get involved in Pitri Puja. With the friend who was, you understand you understand the point I'm making? It's expanding on its own merit. They don't need us for it to expand. We just have to provide the tools for it to expand. And they will expand it on their own because of one thing. They feel very comfortable. Panditji, that is what we need to do to make our children feel wanted and comfortable. And they have initiative. They will take the initiative and create things that you and I could only imagine.
Now, we are coming out of the COVID period. Well, hopefully we are coming out. We're not good, as we say, right? The last 2 years, temples were essentially required to reduce numbers, reduce services, avoid interaction, so that there would have been challenges then. What we need to see now then is that our temples actually get more involved and get activities back up and running. Would you agree with this, Pandits?
100%. I will agree 100%. We need to get up and start moving. Now, there's still going to be restrictions because COVID ain't going nowhere. COVID here to stay. So we have to manage COVID and also manage how do we go forward from here. Hey, all of us are jailers who are doctors. Bring them in. Let them give you 1 hour service, 1 hour a week, 1 hour a month. Come in as doctors, talk to our children. We have counselors. I know plenty of counselors in diabetes, counselors in drugs, who could counsel children and talk to them. Be wary of these dangers. These are not things that if you get hooked, you're going to come out. But we have to make the effort to do it. It's not which Monday do it first or which Monday do it last. As individuals, we could all do it in our own Monday and then sit together and share information with each other. Anybody who tells me that I will be sitting down in front of a computer talking to you, that and Hanuman sucking a snow cone, they would have never seen. But it happened. You understand what I'm saying? So use the technology you have.
Not only the technology, I think an important issue arising here is that each temple individually may not have the resources to do all that we are saying. And maybe something we can look at is actually, is there a Hindu resource center that Hindus, regardless of which organization you're from, or whichever part of the country, whichever part of the world you are, could you access it? Maybe in this program, one of the things I just want to suggest for conversation is we look at setting up a Hindu resource center where we can pool these resources really. So it's because right now, again, we may have someone, like you said, we may have one person who is a counselor who wishes to assist, but he may be able to go to many temples. But is there any way right now that we have where we can, in fact, marshal those resources or manage them? So, Pandits, just a suggestion I'm throwing out. Even the issue of a library, is there a Hindu library in Trinidad and Tobago? I think Vikram had raised that with me in a conversation some moons ago, and it struck me. I haven't found a Hindu library. Is there one that's open to the
only home library? That's the only one.
That's a personal library.
No, but that's the only one I know. I am saying, and most of our children are very inquisitive. If you know, when you were in India, there was a group that published a book called the Amarchitra Katha. They only printed 240 volumes, right? From 1 to 240. They was in such demand that they printed over the same thing from 241 to 550. Print over the same thing, 551 to 1,000. And they keep repeating it over and over because there is a need. Children like these things. We could purchase it. All of us have clients who are willing to help purchase books to have a proper library that could give children a sense of belonging. When you go there, that library is not mine. That is not a Vikram library. That is not a Swaha library. That is your library. You take care of it. We have all the facilities. You want the photocopy information? Everything is there for you. But we have to make the effort to start. That is the problem. We're talking and we're not starting. You know, there's a song in a movie called Bobby. Pehle tum, pehle tum, pehle tum, pehle tum. You go first, I go second. You go first, I go second. The train leaves, both of us stand up on the ramp.
Take your point. The issue of who's going to start it. Panaganda, you're going to make an input?
Well, in my opinion, we want to start something new. Why don't we use the resources we have right now? Why don't we approach the National Library and say, look, you need to put these books in the library? Why don't you approach the school's library and say these books have to be inside here? And agitate for it and get whatever, you have got a lawyer to write a letter, whatever. Why can these books not be inside here? So we start from the institutions we have. I just want to go back to one point, as Vikram was speaking. Are you talking how to go about following Hinduism? I will say the medium, the message. Right now, when Vikram is speaking with us, how many Pandits they will talk, how we can go for Hinduism? We congratulate Pandit Vikram, he is doing a lot. So what we say, we use the experiences of our Pandits together, who we have, we're going to go forward. And that can take us forward in Hinduism. Because no matter what you say, the Pandit is the chief, put it that way. What he say goes, people follow him. So let's get all the Pandits together. We have started with Pandit Vikram, we get other Pandits, and forget organization, but Pandits. We are getting together. So Pandit Vikram has made a good start. We compliment you for that. I am saying this is how we need to go, to get Pandits together.
You know what this is going to do? I'm just using this word loosely. Imagine Mani Dev, Gyan Dev, Balram and Vikram stand up in Equazi eating a doubles and drinking a coffee. No, I have no clients living in Equazi, unfortunately. But all your clients living in Equazi. When they pass and see 4 Pandits stand up together and eating a doubles, they say, wow, watch these fellas, them have something coming. You understand? Bring them together somehow. Let us meet somewhere and have a cup of coffee. Let us meet somewhere and have a cup of tea. Just that, nothing, no. You understand what I mean? You're not putting pressure on anybody. And gradually, I mean, I could remember the days when Balram and I were in Mahasabha together. Balram will tell you that. When we finished classes in Mahasabha, Balram and I used to walk from Mahasabha to the Kwezi. Ask him if you remember that.
The eat doubles?
I can't remember if it's eat doubles. But I always got the bad end of the stick because I had to walk back from Kwezi to Curep to get a taxi to go south. And this was done every Wednesday. That is why today, after 45 years, we are still friends. We are still friends.
So I think the other issue being raised here, we mentioned resources, but this is a very important point. I think that's a very seminal one as we come close to the end of today's program. The role of the Pandit in ensuring these changes that we speak of. It won't come, as Pandit Balram says, without the Pandits themselves sharing this vision. But one of the challenges, and I want to make an appeal to Pandits of Trinidad and Tobago, I am asking if you're Mahasabha, Swaha, Kendra, whoever, Pandits must learn to speak to each other. And I have faced it. Pandits of one organization said, boy, sorry, I can't talk to you, because the boss go vex. These are the things that are happening in Hinduism. And these are men that go by the name Pandit, who should be learned. Now, those who have such compulsions because of need or whatever the reason, I respect that. But for those who see the need for Pandits to get together, for us to do more together, I want to say through the Hindu perspective, the true Swaha, frankly, because I can't divorce where I come from. We are Pandits of Swaha, but we are Pandits of Hinduism, open to all. And as we are happy to embrace Pandit Vikram. He's a senior. He tells me he's 1 month senior to Pandit Haridev. I don't know, right? I'll give him and Pandit Haridev to work out. But we are all Pandits, and we all have a desire to do something more. What we've come up today with, as we summarize, one, the way our weddings are done. We need to relook at it. And we want to encourage Pandits to not accept things that are improper in the name of just doing a wedding. We also have to be honest with ourselves and with our dharma. Two, the changing role of our temples. We need, as we are saying, to get more done using our temple network, our mandirs, whatever term you wish to use. However you want to. Why I keep saying that is because even before the program, we had a conversation on that. What do we call these buildings? Are they temples, mandirs, what? Whatever you want to call them, they are Hindu centers. Centers through which Hindu people can meet, grow, develop, and face life's challenges and negotiate life successfully. And the final point that we have raised today is the importance of making resources available. Each Pandit, each community has Hindu resources that we need to tap. Not for ourselves, but for our community. And this idea of developing a Hindu resource center, wherein we all can contribute, Panagyandev makes the point, there are existing libraries, we should insist that Hindu books get in them. These are all ideas that we can pursue. We are almost out of time. If my director tells me we are out of time, but I would want to invite Pandit Balram, Pandit Gyandev, and Pandit Vikramji for closing comments. Pandit Balramji.
I would like to make it known that in Swaha Hindu College, we do have a section devoted to the literature of India. All right? And it's open to all. You simply come to the school, but again, you know that too. Remember that again?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So we are doing our part, but we need a considered effort by everybody. But bit by bit, it will happen. You get out there. So the library is there in Swaha Hindu College. Thank you.
I would like to thank Pandit Vikram for setting an example of how Pandit get together for the benefit of society, for the benefit of Trinidad and Tobago, and the benefit of humankind. So Pandit Vikram, thank you very much. Let's keep it up.
All marks.
Pandit Vikramji.
Let us meet again and hammer out some fine points and put a plan in place where we could get people to implement it.
Thank you very much. And that's the point on which we will finish. The greatest of ideas remain only ideas unless we move to implementation and achieve the good that we seek through implementation. I am Pandit Manidev Prasad of Swaha here on the Hindu Perspective, thanking you for joining us and look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, Sitaram, Namaste ji.